If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist, where we talk boxing. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, try to be full-time observer, joined by former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, Jack Hirsch. Jack, I'm digging that shirt, sweatshirt, whatever. You're muted, Jack.
I'm Frank. I'm trying to fit in my head and Muhammad Ali hitting the heavy bag here on the shirt.
Jack, you know what? Stop running and do some bench presses, and you'll have a chest, and it'll hold it up.
My head. Yeah, maybe a way to hold up Muhammad Ali. Yeah, not
now. If I had to make a bet, I would say that picture is not 60s Ali. It's early 70s.
I have no idea, Frank. I got it at Old Navy. They had a number of Ali T-shirts, classics. And how could I resist not picking it up? I mean, you go in there, you see, even not needing any more T-shirts, you see Ali on the heavy bag, and I wind up, getting a few.
In the black shirt, I like that. I only have a couple. I think I have 3 Ali shirts, and I actually should have more.
A question. You worked out of Joe Frazier's gym. Back in the day when Joe was a gym owner, right after he retired, during the time you boxed.
I know you're going to ask me.
Would you have walked in wearing this shirt? What would Joe have said? If you didn't say a word and you just happened to be walking by Joe, what would the reaction have been?
I think he would have walked out to me and he just would have looked me in the eye and said, "Really?" and shook his head. Maybe not say really, but just shook his head and just kept walking.
Would he have made you take it off?
No, I don't think so. No.
I remember, no. I don't know whether you know this name, Bert Watson. Very nice.
I know Bert Watson well. He was Joe's business manager.
Right, exactly. Great guy, Bert Watson, from everything I can ascertain. I haven't spoken to him in maybe 25 years.
I wonder if he's still with us.
But yeah, I haven't heard anything to the contrary. But Bert's a great guy. And he was telling me a story of when he was working for Joe. He mentioned something about Ali in the car. It wasn't necessarily complimentary, but he wasn't putting Ali down. Maybe when Joe was. And Joe dropped him off on one of those throughway stops, the rest areas.
I heard that.
Because Joe was so mad. But then Joe came back and got him an hour later. And said, "Come on," he didn't want to abandon them, but
I think I'm not sure if I told you this story before, but it was uncomfortable saying Ali's name around that gym. And I remember one Saturday, it was about 2:00. The gym closed at 2:30, and we're in the shower in the locker room, and how guys are in there, they're talking, they're real loud. Well, his office backed right up to where the locker room was. And he walked out and he said, "Yo, keep it down. I'm on the phone." Remember Roger Stafford?
Oh, sure. Good welterweight. Yeah.
The welterweight. He was real tight with Michael Spinks, actually.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to fight Sugar Ray Leonard.
He was, and he fought Donald Curry instead. And so Joe says, he comes out and he says, "Keep it down." He goes, "I'm on the phone talking business." And Roger Stafford said, "Okay, Joe." He goes, "But we were just talking about that hook you dropped Ali with." And Frazier put a smile on his face. He goes, "Oh, okay." And he went back in his office.
Yeah.
True story.
No, nice. What's going on in boxing now, Frank? Hypothetically, realistically, we should be talking about the current state of affairs. And when time permits, we should be reminiscing about stories, the good old days, personalities. But things are so darn slow. We're doing it just the opposite. There are not that many big fights on the horizon. I'm getting tired of having to talk about things like Eddie Hearn of Matchroom says, we'll know in the next few days whether Boots Ennis is going to fight Virgil Ortiz. I don't want to know that they're still negotiating. When they first start negotiating, then it's news. Oh, good, they're negotiating. They're trying to come to a resolution. But it's been dragging on. It's been dragging on. And I hate the idea when the next biggest fight is 4 weeks away, and it's Keith Thurman, Sebastian Fundora. Keith
The
Thurman,
28th of this month, right?
Talented guy, but that's not a big fight to me. Keith Thurman, 2 fights in 6.5 years. And then Tyson Fury, okay, a comeback fight he's having.
And I'm so tired of him.
Yeah, and not bad. And then Conor Benn. This is what I don't get. He goes to Super Boxing, Dana White's organization. I don't know how they came to the name Super Boxing, but that's fine. What's in the name? And they're paying Conor Benn $15 million for 1 fight. But his next fight is April 11th on the undercard of Fury against Regis Prograis. How can it be for 1 fight? Super Boxing would be insanely out of their mind if it's a 1-fight deal and Conor Benn can then leave them after 1 fight.
And Jack, that's the problem. We don't know. We don't know what we live in a world today way beyond sports where I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know what's real, what's not real. Some of the stuff we see with AI, like you just said, with that program, Super Boxing. I don't know what's going on with Conor Benn. But back to talking old fighters and how they work today. I don't want to rip Usyk, Jack, but Usyk is fighting a kickboxer in his next fight. And first it wasn't for a title. Now it's supposed to be for the WBC title. Usyk, I feel bad ripping him because he's just answered the call. He's been a road warrior. He has fought everybody out there. Everybody deserves an off night. But I just don't like how it looks. Fighting a guy that had 1 sanctioned fight like Fury did with Ngannou.
Well, did he have that kickboxer? He never had a professional boxing match, did he?
1 boxing match a few years ago, and he won. Fought a non-entity. Right.
Yeah,
I think he's had 26 kick fights, and he's won all but 1.
I mean, if you want to look at precedent, it started maybe with Floyd Patterson, but it's not a good comparison. He fought Pete Rademacher, who was
a gold medalist.
Exactly. He defended his world heavyweight championship against an Olympic gold medalist making his pro debut. That's out of line. That's still out of line, but it was a novelty. It was kind of charismatic. Oh, he never had a fight, but he's an Olympic champion. Lomachenko fought for a title against Orlando Canada. What was it? No,
Salido. Salido.
Orlando Salido. Second pro fight. But Lomachenko had like 300 amateur fights, a couple of gold medals, 2 different Olympics.
He had a boxing background.
And you knew he was ready, whether he was going to win or not. He wound up losing a close 15-round decision because it was a second fight, but you knew he was ready, Lomachenko, and he was up to the chore. And in a way, he'd earned it by having such an incredible amateur pedigree that he had it. You know, it would have been the same if Teofilo Stevenson, the 3-time Olympic heavyweight gold medalist from Cuba, who never turned pro, had he made his professional debut and fought for the World Heavyweight Championship, I would have been good with it. No problem, because he was capable and he would have represented a threat to the champion.
Jack, that almost happened. I don't know why we're getting there's an echo, but now it's going good. Do you remember he was going to fight Ali in 1977? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't take place because at that point Ali may have actually lost to him.
But you know what stopped it, right? Do you know what stopped it?
No.
the negotiations broke down because Stevenson wanted 3 rounds, and Ali said, I'm not a 3-round fighter. He wanted 10, and Stevenson would not agree to 10.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that, but no one would have wanted to see a 3-round fight. But the biggest fiasco, even the great Ali, when he was in the prime of his career, he wanted to fight Wilt Chamberlain. The only reason the fight didn't come off was because Chamberlain didn't want it. He wanted it in the beginning. Then he got nervous. Ali entered the room. He kept going, Timber. Yeah, and then Chamberlain afterwards thinks he would have done well. Yeah, it's easy.
But Jack, they were supposed to fight 2 times, if you remember.
Outclassed.
Do you remember that? They were supposed to fight in 67, and then Ali was taken out of boxing. And then after he lost to Frazier in 71, Ali wanted to do something big to come back, and they tried to make it again, and it didn't come to fruition.
It would have been a pathetic mismatch. It would have been, you know what it would have been the equivalent of? Roy Jones, who's a pretty decent basketball player. You put him one-on-one against Allen Iverson. It would have been that type of thing. Maybe Roy would have scored 1 basket and losing 11-1. No better than that. No, probably 11-0, but it would have been a mismatch. But
speaking of Allen Iverson, Jack, Philadelphia Inquirer just did a thing on the 25 most Philadelphia athletes in history. Could you? I kind of gave it away. Who was number? So you know who number 1 was?
The greatest Philadelphia athlete. Wow.
There were 3 boxers on the top 25.
The 3 boxers in the top 25 would be obviously Joe Frazier.
He was number 2.
Are we talking Tommy Loughran?
I think Loughran was on there too. So you're right, Jack. There were 4 boxers. I forgot about him.
They wouldn't have put Benny Briscoe on there, I don't think.
No, it was Joe Frazier, Hopkins, Loughran, and Tex Cobb.
Hopkins. Tex Cobb on the list?
Tex Cobb was number 21 on the list of the top 25 most Philadelphia athletes. The top 3 were Iverson, Frazier, and
I can't imagine with all the other sports. No disrespect to Tex Cobb, but we're not just talking boxing. We're talking about all sports combined.
It was Jack. It was because of his toughness. And he lived there, and he ingratiated himself in the city. I mean, the list was full of guys like Chuck Bednarik, Richie Ashburn, Dawn Staley, Carly Lloyd. But there were 4 boxers. Tex Cobb was 21.
I mean, even the guys playing today. Any of the Eagles on there? The current Philadelphia Eagles?
Jason Kelce. Brian Dawkins made the list too.
Reggie Williams?
You mean Reggie White?
Reggie White, I mean. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you real quick, just for some fun here.
I mean, Wilt Chamberlain played for the Sixers for years. What about Dr.
Right. Vince Papale, Tyrese Maxey, Richie Ashburn, Carly Lloyd, Cobb, Steve Williams, skateboarder.
Moses Malone.
Jameer Nelson.
Okay, yeah.
Let me just see. Bednarik, Hopkins. Hopkins was 14. Smarty Jones.
Jonathan McNabb.
I'm getting there, Jack. Barkley was 14. I doubt McNabb made it. Chase Utley, 13. Mike Schmidt, 11. Wilt, number 10. Richie Allen, number 9. Bobby Clark, 8. Irving, Dr. J, 7. Dawn Staley, 6. Brian Dawkins, 5. John Kruk, 4. And then we know that Jason Kelce, Smoking Joe, and Iverson.
I'm going to tell you, I know it's a boxing show, but I have to make a comment. Mike Schmidt, who played his whole career for the Phillies and is arguably the greatest third baseman in baseball history, and played his whole career for the Phillies, you put him behind Richie Allen, who was a lazy guy who would loaf after balls and got traded to the White Sox in part because of that, and Wilt Chamberlain, who didn't play his whole career with the 76ers, who eventually got traded. I just don't get it.
How could Reggie White not be on that list?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of wonder, but it's what it is with that. But
it was the writers, Jack, that picked it. It wasn't a fan vote in. It was the writers.
Yeah. Getting back to what we were talking about before, does Usyk deserve a pass in this? Yes, if he's only gonna, if his title's not gonna be on the line, he deserves a pass. Okay.
I'll bet you goes down as a title defense.
I don't have a problem with it, but it's supposed to go down as a title defense. What happens if Usyk should slip up and somehow lose the fight?
They'll have an immediate rematch.
I mean, even when Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, I don't think any title was on the line, was it?
No. Mayweather had been retired for 2 years.
Look, if Usyk just wants it for the challenge, a spectacle, fine. But what kind of challenge is it if you're fighting a kickboxer who's not going to be allowed to kick?
I agree.
At least Muhammad Ali, Antonio Inoki was allowed to fight in part the way he wanted to. I know Inoki was inhibited, but he was throwing kicks and it was very dangerous with Ali getting some blood clots. It was a terrible thing.
Jack, I can't imagine. Now, I've told you that I've been involved with martial arts for about 15 years. And I've done Wing Chun and Judo and a little Jiu-Jitsu. People don't realize how hard those leg kicks and how much they hurt when you take your shin and you kick somebody above the knee. And then, Jack, I'm telling you, one kick could end a fight. Okay. And the fact that Ali never trained for that and that he was able to take them, I know he paid for it when he went to the hospital with blood clots, but the fact that he could endure that kind of pain and act like it was nothing, his toughness was off the chart. Because let me tell you something, those things hurt really bad. I mean, we see MMA and people don't think it's much. They hurt like hell.
I never asked you this one. I don't think I did, Frank. I mean, the greatest martial artist, at least the most charismatic one of all time, is Bruce Lee, the most famous one. Agreed? Without a doubt. Bruce Lee is mythical. You speak to people who would have won between Bruce Lee and this guy, and a lot of people say Bruce Lee would have beaten anyone. You put him in the ring, Bruce Lee at his best. Let's say he's allowed to kick. Put him in against George Foreman, who stopped Joe Frazier in Kingston, Jamaica. What would have happened? 135-pound Bruce Lee against
Jack. Bruce Lee admitted that. He admitted that during his life that he would have got killed in the ring by Ali. He admitted that.
I don't remember him saying that.
Yeah, I read it a few times. He was a big admirer of Ali. You're right, but he admitted that he knows there's weight classes for reasons.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize if you.
And Bruce wasn't a real fighter, Jack. He was a real martial artist, but he only had a couple fights in his career. I mean, in his lifetime, as far as real fights.
That's why you even put Bruce Lee against another 135-pounder, Roberto Duran, the Duran that beat Buchanan and Leonard. I can't see Bruce Lee, anyone that size taking Duran out. No. In a street fight, it might be different, but not in the ring. Street fight, it might be different if you kick the guy in the kneecap and this and that, and you could be low to the ground. Yeah, it's different with wrestlers who could grab onto you, and hold the boxer down. But do you remember before Ali fought Inoki, to get a lot of good public relations, they had him go to a fight. He's at ringside when Gorilla Monsoon was fighting. You remember that? That was the funniest thing. All staged, of course. Ali's pointing to Monzon. He gets in the ring, and Monzon has his hands on his hips. And
he holds his hand up so Monsoon can pick him up.
Right. And Ali's flicking out a few jabs. And then all of a sudden, Monzon picks him up and he's spinning him on an airplane spin. And Ali's holding on and his eyes are closed. And Monsoon puts him down not that hard. And then Ali is leaving the ring and pointing to Monzon. I mean, Ali's...
Jack, you know, I'll tell you something else about that. Gorilla Monsoon's name was Morella. Gene Morella was his real name. And he had a daughter, Sharon, who married a friend of mine. And I went to the wedding and Mr. Morella, Gorilla, was there. And you know me, I have to go up and I talked about it. He says, yeah, he goes, Muhammad Ali, he kind of jumped where I could get him. He goes, yeah, we had a good time. He goes, I love Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. But
look what we're talking about. Look what we're talking about.
Now, Mayweather, I guess he's not going to do the exhibition with Tyson because he's doing...
I heard that's still on.
So Mayweather is looking to load up, get 2 nice paydays, not mega paydays, nice money in exhibition matches, maybe pick up 25 million a pop, a 30 million or whatever. I'm just estimating, guessing, no idea what he's getting. And then against Pacquiao, we haven't heard anything about the purses, but that's going to be on Netflix, and that's going to be some big money.
What's up, Al? Al's a friend of mine. Jack, you're right. And that's why I've said all along, since it's been announced, that if Mayweather and Pacquiao finally do fight, I could never pick Pacquiao because Mayweather is looking at this long term and his only stock in trade is his undefeated record. And when that goes, he can no longer be the promoter.
So, look at the blueprint for Mayweather going forward. Let's assume things unfold the way you say they are. He has the 2 exhibitions. He picks up some nice change. Then he picks up major money against Pacquiao. And now Mayweather's really back in the money. Okay? He's got a lot of money. 2 things could happen. He could either change his lifestyle and live very comfortably off the money he has, not spend it crazily, and still be unbeaten at 51-0. Legacy's intact. He was back in the news. If anything, he'll add to his legend just a little bit.
Think he'll be unbearable.
Or he continues fighting because the Pacquiao fight doesn't get him what he thinks is the type of money that resembled what he got the first time. Let's say the second Pacquiao fight, he gets 125 million, not 350, 400 million, the way he did before. Does he risk the record? Because if he continues fighting on, who might he fight against where he could earn that type of money and beat? I mean, is
Jack,
Roy Jones that big an attraction?
I don't think so. But I think if he picks up some money from the exhibitions, he fights Pacquiao and wins, he will find an opponent that he can sell where he can get the win again. And then when he's like 53 and he's finally retired, he'll say, look how good I was. Look how good I was.
No, Frank, my thing is, who might there be out there who he looks at as a very winnable fight if he beats Pacquiao, if he continues? There's talk of him and Terence Crawford coming out of retirement.
Never going to happen.
I think Floyd's a little too smart to feel he would beat Crawford. But maybe Floyd is thinking, okay, screw it. I don't care anymore as much. If I lose a fight, everyone's going to know I retired at such and such, and I just came back, and it's not going to be as big a deal as before. And Floyd might be thinking, I'm good enough to lose a decision to Crawford. I could keep out of his way enough. He'll win rounds, and I'll get like 300-400 million and screw the unbeaten record.
I can't see him doing that, Jack. I can't see him going that way. If he gets by Pacquiao, he will find somebody. If it is a fuller brush salesman, and if he can sell it, that's who he'll fight. I don't think he'll go that way. I don't think there will be. I mean, I just can't imagine there will be anything legitimate about this. When I question how legitimate some of his fights were when he was in his prime, why would he get bold now? I just don't see it. I don't see it. I could be wrong. I think I know how he thinks. And if he gets by on Pacquiao, he has the cachet, Jack, to do another Fugazi.
Yeah, but against who? That would be the thing. I don't see anyone out
But who
there.
doesn't matter, Jack? It doesn't. Who doesn't matter because he's the draw.
Can Floyd at this stage legitimately beat Mike Tyson going forward when Tyson's 60 and Floyd is like 50?
No.
Can
That'll never be a real fight.
Does Floyd have a chance to beat Jake Paul?
No, I would take Jake Paul.
Because he's much bigger.
He's too big.
I'm looking, but those are names that would draw mega money if they were for real.
Jack,
Okay?
the name that draws mega money, we might not even know of today. Today, it might be somebody totally off the mark who we have no clue, but I believe that he will find a gimmick to sell to the public. And that brings me to what I was talking to you about before the show. On my cable company, Comcast Xfinity, not all of a sudden, I don't know how long it's been on there, but I just happened to stumble on it last week. It's HBO Boxing, Jack, and it just goes from one fight to the other from 2000 on. Earlier today, Golovkin, and they showed the first two Golovkin-Canelo fights. But over the weekend, I don't know how it worked out that way. Maybe because of what's going on with Pacquiao and Mayweather, but they showed a ton of Pacquiao and Mayweather fights. And there was nothing going on this weekend. I had time and I watched a lot of Pacquiao and a lot of Mayweather. And I don't care who thinks what, how offended anybody is by this. But after studying them and watching both of those guys in their prime, in my mind, Terrence Crawford is a greater fighter under any metric than both of them. And had he fought either one of them in their prime and his prime, he would have stopped them both.
Yeah, listen, Crawford's a great fighter.
I'm not looking for you to fight with me, Jack. What I'm saying is I watched it really good, and I watched Floyd's little tricks and the way Pacquiao jumps in and how easy he is to hit. Crawford is a greater fighter than both of them. The only thing he doesn't have is he didn't get the names on his resume to build it up like they did. But most of the guys they beat were at catchweights, past or before their prime. At least Pacquiao in his welterweight era.
Well, Crawford would have stopped the prime Pacquiao. Mayweather's such a great defensive fighter. If Mayweather,
they might have gone the distance.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about.
I'll see that.
Yeah,
I'll see that. But Crawford wins the fight, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, but Mayweather's key to victory, if he was to win that fight, he would have to get off to a good start because Crawford tends to relax in the early rounds of fights. He sometimes has given rounds away. Even a fight like
he might lose the first couple rounds. I'll give you that. But
I mean, I've watched Crawford a lot from ringside, and he wasn't totally dominant in his fights. They were, but he would always get the result he wanted. He'd always take his time, like against Hank Lundy. Hank Lundy fought a tremendous fight, but Crawford never seemed to care if he lost a couple of rounds. It never bothered him.
You know what, Jack? And you just reminded me of something, and let me qualify what I say. Crawford peaked at 40 and 47. At 35, maybe Pacquiao gives him a go, and at 35, Mayweather would give him a go. But Crawford peaked at 40 and 47, and Max Kellerman, who I value his ability to assess fighters, I mean, I'm not sure he's the greatest out there, but I value what he says to a degree. And he said Crawford is one of those rare guys that as he's getting bigger, he's punching harder and growing into it. He goes, it's not a matter of him taking his punch up. His punching power as he's moved up, when he hit 40 and 47, it went up. And that's where all his knockouts were scored, at 40 and 47. At 35, a couple guys did go the distance with him. And then Postal did at 140, but I think that was it.
Yeah, you know what hurts Crawford a little bit in evaluating his all-time greatness compared to others? As soon as he transitioned into a genuine superstar in the sport, we knew how good he was all along, you and I, don't get me wrong. By beating Canelo, it put him in the category, the way we would talk about Leonard, Hagler, Hearns. It took Hagler till the end of his career to get there. But he entered Sugar Ray Leonard territory, Crawford, when he beat Canelo. And you could even say it was better than Leonard if you want. That's a debate for another time, though. But as soon as he did that, it's like he retired. Had he built on it a while longer with a few fights, because I'm going to tell you, after he beat Canelo Crawford, I guarantee you the next time Crawford would fight, it would be must-see viewing. It wouldn't just be another match. It would be the type where company comes over. Oh, Crawford is coming, like a Super Bowl party atmosphere. That's what Mayweather and Pacquiao is even going to be on Netflix again. People are going to have company watching it on Netflix. It's not just going to be a boxing match. Before that, Crawford was just another fighter. But I do have to admit this. I did get a kick out of this. Right before Crawford fought Sean Porter, I was getting one of those shots that, flu shot or whatever type of shot I was getting before I was leaving to Las Vegas for the fight. And I was casually talking to the nurse, or whoever the name was, of the pharmacist who was giving me the shot. And I mentioned a couple of names. And she said, oh, yeah, I know Terence Crawford. I said, come on, do you really know who Terence Crawford is? He said, yeah, my boyfriend's a big boxing fan. He makes me watch with him. So I kind of got a kick out of that. But I know when Mayweather and Pacquiao fought the first time, there were parties getting together. It was like an event. Let me ask you.
I went to one of them.
Let me ask you, what's the biggest college football game you would like to see? Is it Michigan, Ohio State? What is the biggest matchup, the most intriguing to you?
You mean every year?
No, the ultimate college matchup. If there were two unbeaten teams, which schools would perk your interest the most in a collision?
I guess it would be Alabama against Ohio State.
Alabama's playing Ohio State. Let's make believe it's late in the year. They're both unbeaten. Big major showdown for college supremacy.
Right.
What would Mayweather, Pacquiao, and Netflix are watching the game? Which would you watch? You can only watch one. You can't go back and forth.
I'd watch Alabama and Ohio State.
You would? Okay.
I would.
Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz. You can only watch one for the night. No.
I'd watch Boots and Ortiz.
Okay, because you're a real, genuine fight fan. But I could guarantee you this. There'd be the vast majority of non-hardcore boxing fans. They might actually watch Mayweather and Pacquiao. They might be intrigued enough to turn away from the game if they're big college football fans too.
But the way things are, Jack, they would never have to make that decision. But I get the point you're making. But because the game would be over by 11 o'clock, the fight wouldn't start till after that. If they started at the same time, I do think that.
Wait,
wow.
I don't get this, Frank. When Mayweather fought Pacquiao the first time, it was, as I recall, in the beginning of May. Okay, as I recall,
it was September 13th.
When May
5th. May 5th. You're right. May 5th. Right. He fought Canelo on September 13th. Now, May 5th.
Why did the fight come on like 1 a.m. Eastern time? They weren't competing against college football.
I guess just to make his weight, Jack. That's that they do that sometimes to make us wait, to make sure everything else is over. All the Major League Baseball games at that time, although it's still early in the season, but yeah, they had nothing else to compete with them.
I mean, they wouldn't be concerned about Major League Baseball in May.
Not in May, no.
In the NBA playoffs, I don't think they'd be concerned about that because the finals end in June. So it wasn't like the finals. I don't know. But in any event,
Jack, you know what we're missing? Think about this. And this just hit me. Roy Jones fought Bernard Hopkins in 93. And when did they have their second fight? 2010?
Yeah, I couldn't care less. I mean,
exactly. But the point is, Roy won the first time. Bernard won the second time. And the boxing establishment basically looks at them as 1-1 and even.
I don't think at all. I don't think that's how the boxing establishment looks at it.
No,
I don't think I don't think they pay attention at all to the second fight. They look when Hopkins was close to his best, not quite there yet, and Jones, beat him in that fight. They look at him at peak value. I don't think they look at it that way. Well,
but because of the way,
they don't really look at the third fight. They look at the first.
But Jack, don't you think it helps Hopkins for the fact that his career lasted a lot longer, and then he can say, "I did beat Roy Jones," where Roy suffered some bad losses.
If you asked Hopkins, and he kind of indirectly mentioned this on his own, him and Roy Jones at the very best, the top of their game. And if you said, Bernard, is it fair to say that Roy was a little better than you when you were both at your
He would admit that.
He would say, yeah, a little better. And then if you ask Roy Jones and say, Roy, would you at least acknowledge that maybe Bernard had a little better career than you had? And he might shrug and say, maybe, something along those lines. Because you can make the argument that Hopkins had a better career than Jones. You can make that argument. Hopkins is a rarity in the longevity he showed. How many fighters fought that well into an advanced stage? When you look at it,
Jack, if you look at his career, it's pretty amazing that he had his first pro fight he had as a light heavyweight against Clinton Mitchell. He loses, and then he doesn't fight for 2 years, and then comes back at middleweight, and then the rest is history. That's pretty amazing. And how long did he last? Like his signature fight didn't happen until he was 36 against Trinidad. People forget that. He was 36 in that fight. And to me, that was the best fight of his career.
Yeah, he was superb. And then after that, there were great wins over Kelly Pavlik when Pavlik was at his best.
Antonio Tarver.
I mean, those are monster victories that, he scored. And but like most fighters, he fought on too long. He was competitive.
He did record-wise, Jack, but I think his health is pretty good. I mean, I've seen him on TV and around, and his diction and everything is fine. If I said to you that guy was a pro fighter and fought till he was 50, you'd never think of it at all. Yeah. You'd never even pick it up.
Yeah, I saw him fight in Atlantic City late in his career a couple of times. He lost a decision to Chad Dawson, a majority decision. But Dawson clearly won the fight. And he lost really big to Sergey Kovalev. He had all he did, Hopkins, to last the distance,
Yep, that was the end of the career. And then Joe Smith got him.
I wish he hadn't come back for that Joe Smith fight. The whole idea of the Joe Smith fight was to have one final farewell fight. He's age 51. And Joe Smith never would have had a chance against Hopkins in his prime. No shot.
No, he knocked him out of the ring.
Yeah, Hopkins was competitive in the fight, but Smith was so much physically stronger. So Hopkins' experience, his guile at that point, it could do him no good. And it was the only time he was stopped in his career. So, yeah.
So you agree with me that the Trinidad fight was Hopkins' best fight? I can't think of a fight where he was more complete.
He had a hidden gem that no one talks about, a hidden gem. He stopped Glenn Johnson in 11 rounds.
That was a big win too, because Glenn Johnson doesn't get stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Look what Glenn Johnson turned out to be, like after that. And the Trinidad fight was, Felix Trinidad was high profile. It was like 18 days after the World Trade Center, and there it goes at Madison Square Garden. So high profile. Trinidad was favored in that fight, too. So
he was a 2.5-1 favorite, Jack.
Yeah.
There was never a doubt in my mind. That's when I used to be able to pick fights correctly. There was never a doubt in my mind that Hopkins was going to win that fight. Never a doubt in my mind. And I believe that Hopkins could have lived with any middleweight in history.
Hopkins,
beat some of them, not all of them, but beat a lot of them.
Yeah. Hopkins liked to talk about a certain style, fighting certain guys. He thinks he said in the past, he would have done well against Sugar Ray Robinson. He thinks he would have done really well. And he thinks there's a good chance he beats Sugar Ray Robinson. And Hopkins was talking objectively because he said, well, against Carlos Monzon, I could see myself losing that fight. Because he knew Monzon's reach and style was all wrong for Hopkins in a fight like that.
I could see him making Robinson look ordinary in the fight going the distance, but I can't think of a path how Hopkins wins.
I wouldn't sell Hopkins short against anyone. The one matchup that never quite happened that would have been
Hopkins and Tony.
And Tony, both at their best. I mean, Tony was old school. People don't realize how good Tony was when Tony put it all together. He was great. I don't mean excellent. He was an all-time great, but he was so inconsistent in his performances. It hurts his ranking if you compare.
I like Hopkins in that fight at middleweight and light heavyweight. After that, Tony would be too much for him. But if you think about it, Jack, Tony had a lot of close calls at middleweight and super middleweight and even light heavyweight. He didn't really pick it up till he got to cruiserweight because he had that great chin and he brought those skills up with him and he could outbox those big guys like Yurov, like Peter, like Rockman. And I hate that he brags about beating Holyfield because that Holyfield was a corpse.
I don't think Tony brags about doing.
Oh, he does all the time, Jack. I stopped Holyfield. I've seen him do it plenty of times.
Holyfield accomplished a little bit afterwards, and I mean, what can you say? You got to give Tony some credit for that fight, the way he performed.
Holyfield looked worse than Sugar Ray Leonard did when he got in the ring against Hector Camacho.
In the fight, Tony made him look that way.
Jack, I remember before the Tony fight, I said this 2 times. When I saw Leonard get in the ring with Camacho and when I saw Holyfield get in the ring with Tony. And Jack, God is my witness. Any of my buddies that are watching that were with me, my one buddy, Pat Duran, he was there. I said the way that Leonard was moving around in the corner in 1996 and shadow boxing before the fight, I says, he barely looks like a pro fighter. And I saw the same thing in Holyfield. When he got in the ring with Tony, he's trying to loosen up and he's moving around, and he didn't even look comfortable doing that.
You wonder, these guys, do they really think about their legacy? Do they care about it? Are they like even Ali coming back to fight Holmes? I mean, Ali had to know how good Holmes was. He sparred with him a tremendous amount of rounds. So he had to know how good Holmes was. And yet he fights him because Ali's arrogance, and I hate to say it, there's an arrogance that
absolutely
so many great athletes have, that he'll find a way to win.
Jack, exactly
how I'm going to do it, but I'll figure it out during the fight. And Ali gets pummeled. That was Ali getting stopped by Holmes the way he did. And Ali's the last guy who would have wanted any pity. That was the most sorry scene to me. One of the
Let me
most
ask you
sorry
this.
scenes. Yeah.
What was, and I just had this discussion with a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago. If you think about their careers, Ali's career and Leonard's career, parallel. Both had Dundee, gold medal guy, biggest star in the sport. Both were taken out of boxing for different reasons at about age 25. Okay. Leonard because of the retina, Ali because of the draft. And both of their careers, their last two fights were really humiliating losses. So my question to you is, if you take into totality, what looked worse, Ali against Holmes and Berbick, or Leonard against Norris and Camacho?
Well, I want to dispute a little bit what you said. First off, Leonard lost big to Norris. I don't think he was humiliated in the fight. He went the distance. He won a couple of rounds. I mean, he hung in
Jack,
there.
he was knocked down twice. He looked like a punching bag.
No, it wasn't like a punching bag. Norris
He looked horrible. He was
too,
never in that fight.
Way too good. But I don't think Leonard was humiliated. It was just a bad loss. And Ali against Berbick, same thing. Ali actually got off to a good start against Berbick.
He actually won a few rounds. Okay, so let's look at it this way.
He was competitive against Berbick.
What was worse, Ali losing to Holmes or Leonard losing to Camacho? Which one would have humiliated you more? If you were Ali after Holmes or Leonard after Camacho? Because that's the only time they were ever stopped. The difference was Leonard went down a couple times.
And neither of them won a round. Maybe Ali against Holmes. Maybe you could make an argument for one of the rounds,
Right.
At most. Leonard. I actually think if you're just basing it what happened inside the ring, I think the Leonard loss is worse because he went down against a light puncher. Ali at least, stood up under the hardest punches of Holmes and never went down. But because it's Ali and he's so iconic, it was much more painful to watch Ali get systematically beaten up. Okay? Had Ali fallen in 5 rounds the way Leonard did, it wouldn't have looked so bad. They would have said, Ali's got nothing left. It looked worse, and it was more gut-wrenching to watch Ali lose the way he did than it was to watch Leonard lose the way he did. But if you have to grade them, who showed more resistance, obviously Ali showed,
And the difference is, Jack, Ali was against an all-time great in his prime. Leonard was fighting Hector Camacho and even late in Camacho's career.
Yeah. The question is, if they had been in their primes, could Camacho have troubled Leonard being a southpaw?
He could have gone rounds with him, but I don't think he would have been a big problem.
Well, no one ever stopped Camacho, so I don't think Leonard would have stopped him.
You don't think he stops him?
No, well, no one stopped Camacho his whole career. I mean, why are we assuming Leonard? I know Leonard was explosive, but look, even De La Hoya and Chavez did a job on Camacho past his peak. He hung in. And both those guys, pretty hard punches in their own right.
Okay, so maybe Camacho goes the distance, but I don't think he has a prayer to win.
Well, he probably doesn't win against the prime Leonard, but, I think he could trouble Leonard. Ali and Holmes, I would give Holmes a chance of beating a prime Ali. I wouldn't discount his chances. Styles make fights. Holmes matched up well against Ali style-wise. Ali's not going to out-jab Holmes. Maybe Ali would neutralize Holmes' jab with his own. Maybe. And Ali was maybe a tiny bit more versatile, just a tiny bit. And maybe, he moved a tiny bit better on his feet. But it's a very tough fight for Ali. And if Holmes finds his range, I could see Holmes eking out a decision. I'm not saying he would, but I could see it.
Here's how I break that fight down. Neither guy can knock the other guy out.
Yeah.
At
Right.
the pace the fight's going to go, neither guy's going to be taxed physically like they would be against other guys. I think the deciding factor, there's two things I think that favor Ali. Number one, I think Holmes is the guy that would fight as the puncher. He would be the aggressor, and that's not Holmes at his best. I think Ali, at prime Ali, he would get some good right hand counters in there, and I think Holmes being on the attack favors Ali. And the other thing I think that would favor Ali is because of who he was, Ali just had a way in his ring generalship that sometimes, Jack, he looked like he was doing a lot more than he was. And I think in those tight rounds, Ali with a couple flurries on his toes throws 4 or 5 punches at Holmes, maybe 2 hit, and there's no return. I just think Ali would look like he was doing more when he got off, and I think he would get off just enough to pull out a decision. But if they fought 3 times, I wouldn't bet my life that he wins all 3.
Yeah, it would.
It's a bad matchup for both of them. It's a mirror image.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's kind of like Leonard and Benitez. They mirrored one another, to a large degree when they fought. But, getting back to current boxing, later this month, Moses Atamu, who's supposed to be the future of the heavyweight division, he's fighting a perfect gatekeeper in Jermaine Franklin. If he can't beat Jermaine Franklin, then he's not what we thought he was. But, he should be able to do that pretty decisively. But I think Franklin's a gatekeeper in this sense. He went the distance with Anthony Joshua a few years ago. And let's see if Atamu can stop him. He doesn't have to be sensational. He could stop him late in the fight. But that's your yardstick of measurement. If Atamu wins a decision, if he wins every round, fine. It doesn't mean he's less of a prospect. We could then say Franklin's a tough guy. But show us that you're special in the fight by getting Franklin
Okay.
out. That's
Tom is going to stop Franklin inside of 3 rounds.
Okay,
it's the perfect setup. He can punch. He has fast hands. He lets them go. He's fighting a guy now on the decline who probably needs a couple rounds to get warmed up, who's not a big puncher. All the ingredients are there for Atama to look like Superman in this fight.
Yeah, and eventually there'll be calls for him to fight Usyk if Usyk's around. I got to think of Usyk's mentality. He's a very nice man. He's a great guy.
I like him.
But the thing about it is, if Usyk retired now, he's unbeaten. He's beaten top of the line guys. What does he have to gain going forward? He should have all the money he needs. I don't get this.
Usyk said he's going to fight for a couple more years. Let's say Atama has some really big wins in the next year and a half. I mean, let's just say he blows through a couple names. Say he fights Cabal and he beats him pretty handily. Can Usyk retire without fighting him? See, Lennox Lewis, the biggest threat to his career, Jack, when he left was Vitaly Klitschko. And as much as people have a problem, he won the fight fair and square, and he was smart not to fight him again. Can Usyk leave? If Atama is the top guy and the threat to him, can he leave without fighting him?
Well, there are other fights that could be made for Atamu. Fabio Wardley's fighting Daniel Dubois, okay? And if Dubois wins, he was beaten twice before by Usyk. There's no interest in a third fight. Dubois could maybe fight Atamu in an All England, showdown, kind of, if that happens. If Fabio Wardley wins against Daniel Dubois, Fabio Wardley against Usyk, it'll be called a unification fight again, even though you have to be out of your mind if you don't think Usyk is
Usyk's the champ.
Heavyweight champ, of course, without question. And then there's Tyson Fury, who you get the feeling everyone's in it for the money. I get that, but he's truly in it for the money at this point. You get the feeling. But Atamu against Fury in England, and then there's Anthony Joshua. maybe Utamo against Joshua. I mean, the fighters in England, when you think of it, Utamo, Fury, Joshua, the Fabio Wardley if he beats Du Bois. Man, that's you could. I mean, they have control of the division. It seems.
I'm just trying to think, who could Atama beat, Jack, where he'd get a lot of credit? Because if he beat Fury, we'd say his age and inactivity. If he beat Joshua, you think he does?
Yeah, he does, for the simple reason he's a riser. Look, Marciano got credit for stopping Lewis, didn't he? I know everyone said Lewis was old over the hill, but they were excited about, what he did. It's expected.
It was a different world back then, Jack, and there weren't as many critics then as there are now.
Yeah, but it's any fight. Once you beat a guy, it doesn't matter how good he is going into the fight. You judge him going after. You yourself said that with Errol Spence losing to Crawford. Going into the fight, people were on the fence who was going to win. A lot of people were thinking it was a pick'em fight. Then Crawford completely dominates Spence. And even though Crawford was given some credit, he wasn't given full credit. We were hearing, well, Spence was damaged goods. He was in an accident.
Right. And the problem was Crawford made it look too easy. It was too one-sided. Yeah. People couldn't accept it.
And we talked about that. Had Leonard in the first Hearns fight when he hurt him, what was it, the 6th to 7th round? Sixth round. Let's say he took Hearns out in that round. It wouldn't have been a legendary fight. We wouldn't have been giving Leonard all the credit we did. We gave Leonard more credit for struggling and being behind on points, losing rounds, than we would have given him had he dominated.
Jack, that's always the best way to win a fight. Look at again, the anniversary's coming up, but look at Frazier Ali. If Frazier would have just knocked Ali out or stopped him in 5 or 6 rounds, he wouldn't have got credit. They would say, well, he's away, he hasn't fought. But the fact that Ali beat him up nearly as much as Joe beat him up, people said, well, Ali was pretty good. So it meant something that Frazier was able to beat him.
You know what's funny? You had in the fight of the century, you like you're saying, Frazier, had he stopped Ali in 5 or 6 rounds and beaten him, they would have had a rematch down the line. And let's say Ali wins the rematch in the Thrill in Manila. Frazier wouldn't be given much credit for the first fight.
He still doesn't get enough credit as far as I'm concerned.
Right. But I think he does in large part. I think people realize, yeah. You don't think he does?
I don't think by Ali fans he does, Jack. All they talk about is, well, Ali would have killed him if he didn't have the layoff. And then when Frazier loses the form, they say, look, Ali took everything out of him. I don't think he gets quite the credit he deserves. And I think Ali, the way he talked for about a year and a half after that fight, had a lot to do with it because he convinced a lot of people that he really should have won. Not boxing people that know what they're watching, but a lot of his fans, he convinced that.
What happens? What would Frazier's legacy have been if after beating Ali, he had 2 more fights, as you know, against Terry Daniels and Ron Stan, and he then retired? And he stuck to it, never came back, and that was it. What would the perception have been? I think the perception would have been he was beaten up so bad against Ali, he couldn't fight anymore, even though he would have had a couple of fights after that.
They could say that, Jack, but if he retires 29-0 with 25 knockouts, beating Ali and made about maybe 10 defense, that would have been about 10 defenses if you count the New York State title, Jack. That would have put him up there really high. Like we'd be arguing about him and Marciano, who was behind Lewis.
The one fight that Frazier missed out on, and we'll have to go quick, we'll talk about it next time. Sonny Liston, Frazier 1967 would have stopped the older version of Liston. And that would have been like a Lewis Marciano scenario, I think. But
it's a great fight to fantasize about, Jack.
Closing remark by you, and then the final.
My closing remark is: I want boxing to get its legs back, and I want to see real fights. I don't want to see kick fighters. I don't want to see martial artists. I don't want to see wrestlers. I want to see elite boxers fight elite boxers for a meaningful title. And I don't. It doesn't even have to be a meaningful title. I want elite guys fighting elite guys. No more gimmicks. Thanks, Floyd Mayweather. You're the cancer of the sport.
Okay. With that, good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.